I like ROGs, and I like playing them with other people. Josh Strife Hayes. I meant I like RPGs, and I like playing them with other people. Josh Strife Hayes. That was the legendary MMO and RPG content creator who is notably British, Josh Strife Hayes, when I asked him a fairly simple question. Why do you play MMORPGs? His response was short, simple, and to the point. Kind of the opposite of what this video is about to be. Though I do look forward to his 2-hour retrospective in a couple months from now. But I didn't just ask Josh Strife Hayes, I actually asked a lot of people. I asked you directly, why is the reason why you play an MMO? I asked MMO developers like Raf Koster of Ultima Online and Star Wars Galaxies. I asked them the same question, everybody getting the same question. Why? Why play MMOs? Because I think it's safe to say that the genre in general has been in some agony and pain, and it's deep, dark, dire, and desperate, and we're in a pit of depression and sadness, and I meant to be more optimistic. But it's kind of the way things are, right? Like, we've had MMOs that are releasing that are not really hitting those notes, and we have MMOs in development that are still struggling along, and we're kind of in this deep morass of struggle with this genre. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is something that I think MMO developers need to hear. They need to hear from us why it is that we play. And honestly, at the end of this video, you might see why it's such a struggle to make an MMORPG. I went everywhere to ask these questions. YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, TikTok, and basically anything where there is a place where you can say things and then I respond to them, except Reddit. Didn't ask there, but basically anywhere you can find information, I asked you to respond. And I got comments like this one from Rob6990. For running across a shared world with 20 or 30 people and working together to slay dragons or crush enemies, for getting lost in enchanted lands, working loosely with other mercenaries or adventurers, completing quests and pushing back the darkness, for large-scale battles which scar the land. You know, the usual. Or this comment from Shane. EverQuest was a huge world where I could be anyone I wanted to be. Real life was tough, and most people on MMOs are friendly without wanting something in return. I got so many of these comments on these videos and things where I tried to reach out to get your opinions, and I really loved reading them because it reminded me of why MMOs feel special, why as a genre they stand out, why it's an important genre, even in a world that is now much more interconnected. And so that's why I also reached out to devs to see what they had to say, like Raf Koster, who said the following, quote, "Be someone I'm not, doing things I can't do, in a place I can't be with other people. I played many hours of UGC worlds, of level grind MMOs, of pure social worlds, of sandboxes, and in the end, this is what the attraction has always been for me. Sometimes I only get 3 of the 4 or 2 of the 4, but it's always some combination of those 4 things." Pretty damn good all-encompassing thing that I think we can all kind of relate to when it comes to why we play MMOs. We're wanting to be something we're not, you know, wanting to pick up a sword or an axe or blasters or lightsabers or whatever the hell else, or just really be social. That's another big part that came into a lot of these. A place where it's actually safer to be social than in the real world. Zukin, a wonderful developer on Monsters Memories, took it a little bit more in depth, saying, quote, "At the end of the day, I think it's just fun to have a little world to exist in and explore within the comfort of your home. There are also other elements that I like as well, such as working in cooperative teams, satisfying player growth, support roles, etc. There are games out there that can check 1 or 2 boxes, but I think only an MMO with a focus on world can check them all, and that's what keeps me coming back. There are many times where I would log in just to feel connected to a world and not even really play the game, or I'd hang around low-level areas and just help random people out. Not everything has to be getting the coolest pixel or clicking dragons at the fastest for me. That last part there about not everything being basically being at the cutting edge of the MMO, basically the competitive side of it, I think really hit home for me personally, because when I think of my time playing an MMORPG, over 2 decades, most of that time was not clicking a dragon as fast as I could. It was doing the other things. My first run in EverQuest, I barely got to level 40. And then when I played Ultima Online, I was the worst build you could make, and I died all the time to players and to enemies. It's really just one of those things where I think a lot of that's gone missing in the MMOs is that focus on pushing content, pushing. And maybe we need to take a little step back here and think about the world itself and the existence of being in that world and why that felt good. One of those reasons might be just the people, like what content creator Joskar had to say in this quote here. I love meeting people in MMOs. You can meet people from all over the world with different life experiences and cultures and learn about them while making lifelong friends. I can certainly attest to that, having multiple friends from MMOs that have become lifelong friends, including one that actually appeared in my wedding and another who I just sent a very expensive package to of souvenirs. Some of those social bonds can be some of the strongest bonds we make because you do so in a place where you can just kind of be open and be yourself and without any kind of the reservations you might have normally. But as much as I wanted to read every single one of your comments, I really couldn't. Not for this video without making it extremely freaking long, even though that would make shit so much easier for me. So instead, I took all of your comments from all the different places and I put them in an Excel sheet. An Excel sheet that it was probably the worst, most ineffective, shittiest Excel sheet ever made that would retroactively get me fired from my last job that I had, just out of spite, because it's that bad. But I took all those to get, this chart from your comments that all of you think is the #1 reason to play an MMORPG. And I kind of put them into these little categories here. First, you have social, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's talking to other people and not being a total cock. Progression, which is basically think of your gear upgrades, getting stronger, the kind of traditional vertical progression. Horizontal progression and systems, as well as persistence. I put these together. I may kind of regret putting them together, but I did this because they often came together in the same comments. A persistent world and having all these other different things to do that really doesn't fall under the vertical progression increases, like housing, the focus on the process, not the reward, basically. The world existing without the next shiny upgrade. Escapism, because life sucks sometimes. Exploration, because exploring is fun, but outside there's bears and mosquitoes. And finally, gameplay and combat. This was reserved for specific comments that talked about the type of combat they enjoyed, like say, I really liked tab target combat in a comment, for example. And if you've ever played an MMO, or a couple MMOs, you won't be surprised at which one came in last. Combat. Combat came in last with 9% of the vote. Yeah. Combat in MMO can be good, it can be tactical, it can be cooperative, it can even be action-oriented, but it's always going to be behind what's possible in other genres due to persistence, balancing, and network limitations. With the advent of other smaller-scale multiplayer online games and competitive multiplayer online games, MMORPG combat continues to kind of slide down as being like the least attractive thing of the MMO genre, even though we have come a very long way from it taking 30 seconds for your E-Bolt to hit an Ultima Online, but MMO combat is just really not the reason most people choose to play the game. Really because there is just kind of better combat in other games. The next up though did surprise me. At only 12% of the vote, it was escapism. I actually thought this would be higher, and you might see why here in just a moment. I know it's really the reason why I started playing MMOs as a kid. They provided me a place to escape to when life was shitty. And for me, it was a lot. As a kid, it was shitty a lot. And honestly, sometimes as an adult, it still is. So it's still a place for me to go to and escape to. They're a haven away from bills, health issues, work, etc. Nice Gaming, an excellent YouTuber and streamer with a penchant for PvP action MMOs, had this to say about escapism. Quote, An escape like gaming is usually for, but more so for the irreplaceable dopamine of a shared world and experience with real social interaction, economy, and memories to be made. Something about a multiplayer experience in a shared realm is perfect. I wanted to point that out because escapism can be a lot of things. It could be a freaking book, it could be a movie, it could be a TV show, it could be single player games. So I wanted to take Nice's comment here and kind of put forth why MMORPG escapism is a little bit different. Guillermo Ascanio was more direct, saying, honestly, I just play to distract myself and disconnect from the world. I love fantasy universes, and being able to move myself into one is the best way to forget about my real life problems. Whenever I'm feeling down, I pick up an MMO. I think a lot of us can probably relate to that. Next up was exploration, which came up at 13% of those polled. And this one was an interesting one to me because I think it may be the thing I might enjoy most in a new MMORPG, but also the thing that offers the least replayability. Exploring a new MMO, finding new things, new little areas, whether it's just finding cool spots on distant planets, like I often did in Star Wars Galaxies, or discovering a new dungeon, or some new player creation, or some new quest, or seeing new NPCs or new landmarks is always rewarding, but it's also a one-time thing. Yes, with expansions, you kind of get that new experience all over again with the expansion, but it is also not replayable. You get it one time and then it's done. It's finite. Our next highest category, inching up there from the gaggling masses of MMO players, was horizontal and persistence at 14%. Now, if I did this again, I'd probably try to better clarify a difference here, but honestly, a lot of these comments just kind of felt out of place elsewhere, like about housing or fishing, as well as many about persistence of the world. These horizontal systems, I think, are super important to an MMO, even if they're kind of being commodified more often lately as little sort of mini games or quest objectives. Housing finally being added into World of Warcraft feels like we're coming kind of full circle to what Ultima Online and Star Wars Galaxies nailed decades ago. There needs to be more to a game than a treadmill that just gets longer and longer every day the MMO is out. One of the main reasons why is because that vertical treadmill means that you will always leave people behind, and so you cannot replenish your world easily with new players once older players lapse. Having things that are fun to do beyond the treadmill makes it so that your staying power is a little bit better in an MMO, at least as far as I can tell. And on the persistence side of things, that may be the singular feature that MMO fans can actually agree on what makes an MMO. A persistent world that exists without you and with you. That, more than player numbers or combat or like questing or sandbox stuff, is I think the one thing we can all actually get together and agree on is part of what makes an MMO an MMO. It doesn't give a shit if you log in or not. That's a weird way to put it. That leaves us with two options to fill out the chart, and I'm sure you're just biting your nails wondering whether progression or social won out in the comments on social media. I may have just tipped my hat. It was progression! It was not progression. It was social. Duh. Obviously. Taking home 15% of the vote for second was vertical progression. The big numbers go up, add more gear, get stronger, big dick badass types. A key ingredient to an MMO pulled from the RPG roots that gives you a reason to keep going. Even though I talked about the importance of horizontal systems kind of evening out the game and making it feel more robust, you cannot do that without vertical progression. It is the key ingredient. It is the potato in the potato soup. It is infinitely effective and troublingly addictive. But the number one, taking a whopping 38% of the vote, was of course the social aspects. Making friends, basically, talking to people, not being a cock. And I don't think there's a better way to talk about being social than to just listen to you and see what you had to say about that. Jazz Blues 9496 may have had one of the most heartwarming answers, saying, back when I first stepped into EverQuest, it was at Orc 1, classic grind, medding between pulls. That's when the real magic happened. We started chatting, not about loot or stats, but books. I introduced someone to Feist Riftward Saga, and they opened the door to Robin Hobb's Apprentice series. That's the soul of it for me. Not the mechanics, not the spectacle, just meeting kindred spirits who, without pretense or algorithm, share the same passions. That's why I still play. The old school MMORPGs were never just games. They were campfires. I don't think I've ever heard of them phrased as campfires, but I freaking love that. Willard TK had a more succinct but no less impactful quote saying, "It's like playing in a really big backyard with a lot of people." And then there's this one from Fairwind that hit home for me. I enjoy playing RPGs alongside others who enjoy the same genre. I like seeing how people express themselves when given the opportunity. The guys who introduced me to MMOs were so different in the game than in real life. We were all soldiers in the army at the time, but they were introverts in IRL. But online, they acted like they were 10-foot tall extroverts. The sociological aspects of RPGs still intrigue me to this day. I can attest to this a million times over, as I'm sure many of you can. I have incredible social anxiety and I am a huge introvert, and having the ability to step into an MMORPG where I didn't have the fear and the pretenses of physical closeness and proximity, and just actually be able to, we were all kind of on an even playing field. We were all doing the same things. It made things so much easier to communicate. I was able to convey my thoughts much easier through text than I was through basically talking about them, because I wasn't able to, find the words or use the words in the ways that I wanted to, because I was always so nervous and so scared of upsetting people around me. And then so MMOs gave me this little area where I could do that, where I could take my time, where I could type things out, where I could kind of talk to people on a more even level. Through MMORPGs, I honestly found a new me, a less introverted me. So obviously social is the number one thing that MMORPGs need, right? Well, so this comes with a big but, a huge but, such a big but that I actually had to go ahead and change things. I had to look at the comments that I got, because I was getting them on social media. I was getting them from the most vocal group of players. So as I was looking over these, I figured, why not do another poll? Why not listen to the more silent people, the people that are not so willing to put their name in a comment on things? So we did a poll on YouTube, the place where I have the most reach. And the results were surprising, keeping in mind that because of YouTube, I had to limit to 4 options. Of just about 800 votes, 23% chose progression, 22% chose horizontal persistence and exploration, all kind of folded into one option, and only 14% chose social, coming in last. Perhaps the most surprising of all was that 41% chose escapism, a clear majority, almost double any other option. Something encapsulated in this comment from Marauding Llama. It started an escape from real life, a therapy of sorts. It worked really well, and I'm still playing them 30 years later. Vastly different results between the silent poll and the comments poll, right? So what does this tell us about MMORPGs and all these comments? Well, nothing. If you came into this video hoping to get some steadfast answer of what needs to be in an MMORPG, you're going to be very upset and disappointed. This is the tiniest corner of the tiniest part of the MMORPG genre, just the people that happen to interact with some of the things that I create on this channel and on my socials. At best, this gives a general idea of the reasons why MMO players that I talk to, like content creators and devs and the people that watch my content, that they like to do, why they play an MMO. And even in that context, we cannot agree on one reason why we all play play MMOs. Our reasons are varied. What brings us joy is varied, and that's part of what made MMOs so special. For me, it was a combination of escapism and the social nature of being able to be part of something in an entirely different world, one that existed beyond me and continues to exist long after I wasn't there. It was a shared achievement and understanding in a world that had more rules and was often kinder to the weird kid like myself than the high schools and middle schools that demanded better social skills and confidence than I had. When actually playing the game, I found joy in everything from overcoming difficult odds to sitting around and adding books to a bookshelf from Slayer quests like I did in EverQuest 2, or shopping at player vendors in Ultima Online, or learning new songs for my new instruments to play in a cantina in Star Wars Galaxies. So to go back to the premise of this video and why I titled it "The Devs Need to See This Video," I think it all comes down to this one thing. There is no singular formula to make an MMORPG work. There's no one thing, no gameplay element, no challenge, no sandbox, no quests, no dragons, no spaceships, no singular thing that can make an MMORPG without fail a success. MMORPGs, to work, in my loud and obnoxious opinion, need to be good in multiple ways. They need to be fun when you're sprinting, the raids and things like that. They need to be fun when you're running, difficult group content. They need to be good when you're walking. They need to be great when you're standing still. But basically, what I mean is no matter what you're doing in the MMORPG, it needs to feel engaging. And I think that's what makes these so incredibly difficult to make, because you're not just making a singular game with a singular purpose. You're not making a mega bonk, which is basically just, continuous, like full speed, go ahead. You're making a world. And part of being a world means that you have multiple people who are wanting different things out of that world, all coming in with their own desires, and you have to do the best you can to please every single one of them. This is obvious but frustrating, and it's probably why many MMOs or would-be MMO devs go other routes. They make games like Fellowship, which do focus on just one thing. They make RPGs or survival box games or friend slop like Peak that is great for friends. Because MMORPGs are fucking hard, and you're absolutely mad for trying to make one. But thank you for trying. Because many of us still want to find that world, even if what we want varies from person to person. I'm going to leave you with one final quote from one of the devs working on Monsters and Memories, first, who said, quote, "A buddy of mine in high school started talking every day about his adventures as a high elf wizard, visiting a dungeon with orcs, a chessboard he could kill the pieces on, him making a journey across a lake to a haunted mansion, and then getting a level so he could nuke an amazing 100 points of damage. It turns out he was in EverQuest Beta 4, and he ended up letting me make a character on his account and letting me play some when I was over hanging out. The rest is history. A glorious history. That started with my very first character, an erudite wizard in Toxulia Forest who got lost in the dark at level 2, died, could not find their corpse, and was then deleted in favor of Dark Elf Necromancer who could see in the dark. It turned out that I actually had to earn that glory, and so I was hooked. MMOs brought my love of fantasy worlds to life like never before. Every time I logged in, I was writing my own story, like from one of the books I loved. I was stepping into one of those amazing Elmore, Parkinson, etc. works that covered my D&D books. And I was sharing a computer RPG game world with 1,000 other potential friends or foes that were real people. Simply put, I play MMOs because I never stopped wanting to see what next fun adventure or horrible demise I may be able to have with some friends after logging into one.